Hi, so my name's Casey and this is Nora, and we're the Gnaraloo Turtle Conservation Program for 2013-14. This is our team. It's just us two today, but this is our project manager Karen Hudding and the rest of the team. So we work at Gnaraloo Station. Have any of you guys heard of or been to Gnaraloo? No? You've never heard of it? You've heard of Corba Station or Blowholes, Red Bluff? No?
Yeah.
Yes? Okay, cool. Well, Gnaraloo is a tourism-based business as well as a pastoral business. So with the tourism side of it, we have accommodation like cabins, but there's also the 3 Mile Camp, which is by its name a camping ground. This image here just represents the interior of the station. It's very dry and desert-like. Therefore, the slogan for Gnaraloo is where the desert meets the sea. As you can see in this image here, there's quite beautiful white beaches with rolling brownish red hills. So, for those of you that don't know where Gnaraloo is, Perth's down here and Gnaraloo is up here, so it's approximately 12 hours from Perth, or 150 k's north of Carnarvon. Gnaraloo lies within the Gnaraloo World Heritage or Gnaraloo Marine Park. The Marine Park split into 4 sanctuary zones, but I'm hoping you all know what sanctuary zones mean. Yeah, cool. So at Gnaraloo we have 2 rookeries. Do you know what a rookery is? Okay, so a rookery is a nesting area, so our rookery is where our turtles come to nest. And we have 2. We have the Gnaraloo Cape Farquhar Rookery and the Gnaraloo Bay Rookery. They lie within 2 of our sanctuary zones. So the Gnaraloo Bay Rookery is the rookery we sample every day, and we begin sampling in November and we end in February 28th. Cape Farquhar Rookery, due to its distance from the station and where we live, we can only sample that 4 times in the season. Because it's 30 kilometres away, there's no running water, no power, which means it requires us to camp there. This image here is just representative of the house we're living in for 5 months, and this is the Gnaraloo Bay beach that we sample. So Gnaraloo Bay's in here, and there's a sanctuary zone marker just here. What do you guys know about sea turtles? Yes, they live in the sea. What else?
And lots of eggs.
Yep. Where do they lay their eggs? Yeah, awesome. Cool. So, what? Oh. Yeah. So, actually, sea turtles are like dinosaurs in that they're reptiles. Also, they date back to approximately 250 million years, and interestingly, they were terrestrial animals before they were oceanic organisms. So what actually happened was they were 2 times larger in the prehistoric times, and they had no shell, and they exploited the food source on the land. And when that was coming to an end, when there was less food on the land, they readapted themselves back into the ocean. Which is when they started to form their shell, or their shell. And then today they're now 2 times smaller because they've adapted to the water. They're now more agile, and as a smaller species, they're a lot quicker. So yeah, like the reptiles, it also means they're cold-blooded, which means they have to sit on the surface of the water for periods of time to sort of heat up their blood and then dive back down and exploit the food source at the bottom. So turtles can either be omnivore, herbivore or carnivore. Interestingly though, a green turtle will start off as a carnivore, and then once it gets to a certain age, say 4 to 5 years old, it then becomes a herbivore. All turtles can be either 3, but the reason why, so they're like selective in what they eat. For instance, a loggerhead prefers to have a carnivore diet, but it can still eat as a herbivore or an omnivore. Therefore, they eat jellyfish, sea sponges, crabs, clams, mussels, seagrass, sea urchins, algae and seaweed. Turtles can dive for up to or over 1 hour. However, if they're resting, it could be 3 to 4 hours that they can stay under the water. Yeah. So with a turtle, most people would believe that it's the size of the shell that determines the sex. This is not the case. However, it may look like the female and this image is a lot larger. It's not true, it's not the case. It's actually the tail that determines the sex of the species. So a male will have a lot longer tail, it will be 30 centimetres or greater, whereas a female will have this tail that's quite small. In comparison, it'll only be about 10 centimetres, and you'll only just sort of see it coming out of the end of the back of the shell. Yeah?
Can I just ask, with crocodiles, the temperature at which the eggs are incubated influences what sex they are. Is it the same?
Yes.
Sorry.
That's coming up, and Nora will go through that. It's fine.
Don't take away my slide from it.
So what happens with the turtles we find at Gnaraloo is they bulk up in Indonesia. So they'll stay there for about 3 years. And Indonesia is their coastal water feeding areas. And then what happens is they'll migrate down to the mating and breeding area, which is the Gnaraloo coastline or the Gnaraloo coastline. So they'll migrate down together as males and females, and then they'll mate. The males only have to stay within the mating area for about 1 to 2 months, because the females, what they can do is they only have to mate once, but yet they can lay clutches of 4 to 5 nests, which means they can hold on to the male sperm and fertilise their eggs. They come onto the beach, they lay 120 to 130 eggs, and then they come back out, and then they re-fertilise their eggs with that sperm they've held on to from their first mating, and they can come back and nest. They can mate more times, but if they've found the perfect suitor, so to speak, through selection. So I don't know if you guys have studied any of this, but most animals won't. Most animals want to mate with the best, the largest, and the most healthy organism. So if the female turtle's found that, then she won't bother mating again, which is why the males only stay 1 to 2 months and then head back up to Indonesia. And during that time, the females and males won't eat at all, so the females won't be eating for 3 to 4 months during nesting. So what happens is the female will come onto the beach and she'll dig her egg chamber and she'll lay a clutch of 120 to 130 eggs. And then there's an incubation period of 2 months whereby we will start seeing hatchlings. So the first lots of females will start laying in around November, and then the first lots of hatchlings will come out in February. So this period here, from incubation to their run down to the beach, it's believed that the hatchlings actually imprint the beach that they were born on. They're not actually sure when they do it, whether they do it as they're incubating in the egg chamber or during their run down to the beach, but it's believed that they take certain environmental cues off of where they're born to know that in 30 years where to come back. Also, in the other slide, when the hatchlings, so this period here, so once the hatchlings come out and they reach it to the ocean, this period here is called the lost years. It's notoriously difficult to track a hatchling, and the probability of a hatchling reaching sexual maturity is only 1 in 10,000. The reason why, however, it's believed that what happens is they, once they reach the ocean, they sort of go out into open currents and sit on the surface of the water in between like debris to protect themselves from predators above. But that's not very well studied because it is so hard to track a hatchling that's only about 10 centimetres. And I mean, with a probability of 1 in 10,000, it's hard to pick which one to track. So how many species do you think there are? Guess. Less. It's less than 10.
7. Wow.
7, yeah.
A lot of good guesses.
So of the 7 at Gnaraloo, we have the loggerhead green and the hawksbill. The loggerhead is our most dominant sea turtle at Gnaraloo. Second is our green turtle, and this is our largest species at Gnaraloo. Third is the hawksbill, and this is our smallest species. Then we have the flatback, olive ridley, leatherback and Kemp's ridley. The flatback is localised to Australia. Kemp's Ridley is only found in America. The leatherback is the world's largest sea turtle. And yeah, all of these species are endangered. The hawksbill is critically endangered and the flatback's vulnerable. However, that's questionable because they're not very well studied. The reason the hawksbill is critically endangered is because it was targeted for its beautiful tortoise shell, so it was up there with the ivory trade, and also it was hunted for its bones. They used to use its bones for, and still do, use its bones for tools. Also in Japan, they use their bones as well for medicinal reasons. And they're mainly targeted in Indonesia, because as I said, this is where their bulking grounds are.
Are they also eaten in the diet?
No, so hawksbill's diet is sea sponges. They're the only sea turtle
No,
that...
I mean, do humans eat turtles?
Yes, but they can't eat a hawksbill. Hawksbill meat's toxic.
Oh.
However, the greens are still targeted today. So they're traditionally hunted, which is why they're they're endangered. Yeah. That's alright. So, when you see a sea turtle at Gnaraloo, there are ways you can identify it. So, for instance, why might this be called a loggerhead? Yeah, it's got a log-like head, which is quite evident in this picture here. However, if you weren't to see its head or you were unsure, you could actually count the amount of scales on the back of the shell. If you were to wipe the sand away off this female, you would see that it had 5 pairs of costal scales. And if you were to look down in between the female's head, just between her eyes, you'd see that she had 2 pairs of prefrontal scales. Why might this be called a green turtle? It's a trick question, and please don't say the turtle's green. Yep.
Has it got something to do with the algae that grows on it? Because in that picture.
No, not quite, because most sea turtles or marine species will have algae. Actually, it's to do with the fatty deposits inside the green turtle, so there is something in it that's green. So the fatty deposits lining the internal organs are actually green. So when these guys are traditionally hunted, or even hunted back in 1600s, there have been writings of they're saying they cook the meat and the meat itself is also green. Obviously we don't want you cutting up a sea turtle to ID it. So another way is to count its costal scales. So you can see in here it has 1, 2, 3, 4 pairs of costal scales, maybe not here that well. And also if you were to look in between its eyes, you can see quite clearly it has 1 pair of prefrontal scales. Hawksbill. Why is this a hawksbill? Yeah. But what would this beak be used for? What sort of food would it be preying on? Not coral, but what grows on coral. Yeah, so like mussels and clams. Therefore it needs this beak to sort of grab onto the clam and rip it off the coral. And also it's got a very strong crushing jaw. So it can be like or unlike the loggerhead and the green, because it can either have 4 or 5 pairs of costal scales. However, it'll always have 2 pairs of prefrontal. Also, this species is quite easy to identify in that it's very wide. It's a lot wider than our other 2 species, and its beautiful motley shell, and also its scales overlap.
Hi guys, I'm Nora. Alright, so for our program, we first off collect data on the weather. We want to see if there's big fluctuations in the weather. Is that possibly having some effect on whether sea turtles are coming out to nest? The biggest element of our research is our daily track monitoring. So we go out very early in the morning, around when the sun comes up, and we walk along our beach. We count the number of tracks we see. From the tracks, we identify the species that left the track and the type of nesting activity that occurred. We also have a feral animal program, which I'll get into more detail about, but here's just an image of us looking at the bones of some of our dead feral animals. And then although we do a ton of research, we also like to have some fun, and we run up these gigantic sand dunes that are all over the station. Okay, so this is an image of our rookery. It's 7 kilometers in distance. It's subdivided into 3 subsections, and what we do is every morning we go out to the midpoint. One researcher walks north, the other walks south, and then they collect the data, and then they meet back up. This is a really good image of what our surveys look like. So our beaches have no development currently, no people on them, there's no rubbish. It's pretty much an ideal nesting ground for sea turtles. Okay, so the point of this slide is just to demonstrate that sea turtles will behave in very different ways when they come out to perform a nesting activity. So what we see here is a sea turtle came out on the beach, laid, and then went back to the ocean. But here we see that the sea turtle came out and it actually went back and forth on this dune. As you can see right here, it dug a bit over here as well, did some digging here. So she put a lot of energy into finding a good spot to make her nest. And you know, this process could have taken her several hours. And as Casey was mentioning, sea turtles, the females, will not eat during the nesting season. So she's using up so much of her fuel reserves to find the right spot on the beach. And it's just to show how important it is for them to leave their shells in a place on the beach where, you know, they have high confidence that those sea turtles will make it to the ocean. And that's pretty much the same thing we see here. So this sea turtle came out and went very, very far into the dunes, didn't nest, and just came back. So, you know, once again, using up a lot of her fuel reserves. Okay, so each one of our sea turtles behaves in a different way when they move on the beach. The sea turtles can have 2 different types of motion. So they can either go freestyle or butterfly or breaststroke. So by looking at this track, this is for a loggerhead, how do you think that this sea turtle is moving on the beach? No, so it's actually not butterfly. Okay, I can write with these right here. So how you can tell?
Not on the board that's laminated on the outside.
Oh, okay. Where can I'll write over here? Can everybody see it? Okay. Wow, I almost just destroyed your board. Okay. So the way you can tell that this is an alternate gait, so this is freestyle, is that the sand displacement is not at the same level. So it's alternating in where it is. So you see how it's here and then it's a little bit higher up. So it's kind of like this. So this has an alternate gait, the loggerhead. It's freestyle motion. Now what can you guys tell me about the sand displacement right here? What shape is this like? Like what letter?
C.
Yeah, C. So it's nice C or short J shapes. And what we can do is, what I drew right here, is if you follow the path of the C or the J, it shows you the direction that the sea turtle is moving in. So this sea turtle is actually moving down the stream. And it's important for us to be able to tell which path is the emerge or return, because from there we're able to then move on and look at the nesting activity performed. So the loggerhead has approximately 85 to 95 centimeter wide track. Okay, so based on the picture you just saw of a loggerhead, how does a green turtle move on the beach? So this looks significantly different, right? Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, does it go like that?
Yes, exactly, it does. So you see how here you can see in the same spot in the sand where the sand displacement is. So with this sea turtle, the sand displacement's kind of like that. You guys see what I mean? And so to be able to tell the direction of motion with the green turtle, if you pull together these lines, it actually creates, you know, this nice arrow. So this sea turtle was moving towards the clipboard. Also, the green turtle does this really nice tail poke. So as she's moving, she kind of pokes her tail like that into the sand. So it looks like that, and it's as if you took your finger and just poked it, and it's another way to tell which direction the green turtle is moving in. So the green turtle is larger than the loggerhead, and it can be anywhere from, you know, 95 and up, you know, around, I guess, 105 centimeters wide. Okay, so the hawksbill. What sea turtle does this path look like? The loggerhead or the green turtle? Loggerhead, exactly. However, because it looks so similar to a loggerhead, we have to be able to look at specific cues to tell the difference between a hawksbill and a loggerhead. So the first cue we look for is, you know what the loggerhead we discussed, that they have those nice C shapes or short J's, but the hawksbill, you see how it's more extended? Yeah, so, got it. So, we see these more elongated J's, and once again, it's alternate. So more elongated J's, and then also with the hawksbill, we see this squiggly tail drag. Now, this same tail drag can be present with the loggerhead, but with the loggerhead, we'll typically see it only on the return track, whereas the hawksbill will have it, in most cases, on the emerge track and the return track. Because this species is rare and because it is hard to differentiate between a hawksbill and loggerhead, even though here it might look quite clear, this is an ideal image, we actually take pictures of every single track that we believe may belong to a hawksbill, and then we send it to experts who will help us, be more sure about, if it's actually a hawksbill track or if it's a loggerhead track. One more thing. The hawksbill, unlike the loggerhead, is slightly smaller in size, so this is somewhere from 75 to 85 centimeters wide. Okay, so sea turtles will not always nest when they come out. Sometimes they'll come out, they'll dig as I explained, and then return to the ocean, or they'll just come out and perform a U-track, so there's no digging that takes place. It's very important for us to look for specific cues, once again, to be able to tell whether it's an unsuccessful nesting attempt that takes place or if it's a nest. So this is, once again, an ideal image of what a nest will look like. What we see here is sea turtle came out from the ocean right here. So she comes out like that, and she goes right here. This is called her primary body pit, and using all of her flippers, she moves the sand. So she tries to dig her shell pretty much to the same level as the sand. Once she's happy with the depth that she has gotten to, she props herself up on her front flippers, and using her back flippers, she digs this egg chamber. So she's propped up like that, and using her back flippers, she just like digs down. And this egg chamber can be about 60 centimeters in depth. So once she's complete with the egg chamber, she will then drop all of her eggs into the egg chamber, and she will then move forward just a tiny bit and use her back flippers, kind of in the motion of rolling a dough, to cover up the egg chamber. Once there's a little bit of covering done, she moves forward, and this is now going to be her secondary body pit. So that is right here in this image. And now she's going to use all of her flippers to flick sand back. She wants to cover up the nest. Why might she want to camouflage and cover up the nest? What? Exactly, predators. She doesn't want, as you can see right here, this is a crab. She doesn't want predators to be able to find her nest easily. She wants to hide it, and so, she did a pretty good job right here. It's there's this big section that looks like, there's some digging, but a predator can't tell easily where the nest is. So the secondary body pit, she flicks all the sand back, and we can tell this is a secondary body pit by this beautiful escarpment that develops right here. And once she's happy with the camouflaging, she then returns straight back to the ocean. Okay, so sea turtles come out at nighttime to nest in most cases. Why might a sea turtle want to come out at nighttime? There's two things that I'm looking for. Go ahead.
They don't get dried out from the sun?
Yeah, so the sun warms up the sand. They don't want to be crawling on the sand that's very warm. They don't want to be in the sunlight for too long. They do come out, sometimes for 3 to 4 hours. So being in extreme sunlight is not good for them. What else is good about the nighttime as opposed to the daytime?
Less predators.
Exactly, less predators. So predators can't see them as easily. It's darker out. She feels more confident. So because sea turtles come out at nighttime, and because it is hard for us at times to differentiate from the tracks what species left the track, what nesting activity happened. We want to go out at nighttime and actually see it firsthand, because then we have confidence in our data. So what we do is periodically throughout the season, we go out for 6 hours at a time, and we watch the sea turtles that come out. We record the species that we see, and we record the nesting activity that occurs. And we write this all down on our data sheets. Next morning, 2 different researchers will go out, and they will write down the same information. So they will write down the species and the nesting activity. And then we compare these 2 data sets, and we're able to tell, what percent of the time is the day team correctly identifying both the species and the nesting activity from the tracks left behind. And this gives us a margin of error, so we know, we're able to tell we're able to tell what percent of time we are correct and what percent of time we're not. Okay, so sample nests. We have over 400 nests a season, and each of them incubate for 2 months, as Casey was explaining. However, we want to know during this incubation time what is happening to a nest. We can't look at every single one of these nests, all 400 every single day, and look for a predation, environmental impact, and hatching. So what we do is this season we chose 60 sample nests. So can you guys see these stakes? Yeah, so we stake 60 of them, and when we're doing our daily morning surveys, we also go over to the sample nest and look for these 3 things. So first of all, we look for predation. This is a pretty good image right here. If we see these crab burrows, we write down that a nest has been disturbed, and then if we see eggshells, then we say that the nest has been predated on. So yeah, we look at predation by crabs and other animals, which I'll get into. We also look at environmental impact. So it's very windy at Gnaraloo, and sometimes overnight we can have a huge amount of sand, just shift over on top of a nest. So let's say this was our stake before, and here's the level of the sand, and all the little eggs are down here. Originally these eggs, when the hatchlings have developed, they only have to travel this distance to get out of the sand. However, if we've now had a ton of sand move on top of the nest, what we have now is hatchlings actually have to travel this distance to get out of the sand. And so there's this additional distance that they now have to travel. And this additional distance, sometimes they just simply can't do. It makes it more difficult for them to get out of the nest. And we call this nest suffocation. Then of course we also have erosion of nests, sometimes by tide. So if the sea turtle nested too close to the high tide line, the tide will come through and wash away the nest. Our favorite thing to look for, of course, is hatching. We love to see little sea turtles come out, and we'll show you guys actually a video of it. We love to see them come out. We count how many we see, and we record the species. Yeah?
If something impacts on this, like sand, whatever, you guys move it, or we not
No, we don't interfere. We just record what we see. Good question. Okay, so this image down here, it's, sorry? What? Oh, okay, sorry. So I actually saw this sea turtle and its eggshell rolling down a sand dune one morning. So sea turtles, probably 2 weeks prior to actually leaving the nest, they will develop this temporary tooth or nail at the front of their head, and that's what they crack open their shell with. Crack open the shell, and then for the next week or so, they actually suck their intestines and some of their organs back into their body. And then for the following week, they'll actually climb out of the nest. So this sea turtle, as you can see, it still had some of its intestines still in the eggshell. So it was probably predated on during probably 2 weeks prior to it leaving its nest. And so a crab had probably gone into the nest and pulled it out, and that's why I saw it rolling down the beach. Okay, so what eats turtle eggs? We have introduced predators, feral animals, and we also have native predators. So the feral cat, feral dog, and the feral fox. Feral fox used to be a pretty big problem when our program started in 2008. They were predating on and destroying completely 100% of our nests in some locations on the beach. So we had to implement a feral animal program, and it's been quite successful because in the last 4 years we've had 0 predation by feral foxes. So what you see right here is a feral fox that has actually been killed and dissected just for demonstration reasons. And they found, as you can see on the top of its belly, they found 3 complete hatchlings inside of it, and then several other body parts and native marsupials. So it's just, once again to prove that they were eating our hatchlings. We also have the feral cat and the feral dog, which this year we did not find to be affecting any of our nests. Now that we have gotten rid of all of our feral foxes, the number of crabs that we have in our rookery has increased, because the feral foxes were eating most of the food, but now they're not eating most of the food, so they have more food, so they of course flourish. And so the crabs they disturb about 32% of our nests, and they predate, so we see eggshells about 45 of our nests. So they're, about 80% of our nests are being damaged to some extent by crabs. This image right here just shows what a nest looks like after a crab has predated it. And then you guys know what bunyirs are? Yeah? You guys have seen them? So they have also been found in some rookeries to dig into nests and to destroy eggs. Okay, so for our feral animal program to work properly, we have to be able to tell a difference between the prints of different feral animals. Because if we see a feral animal trapped on the beach, we GPS it and then send it to our pest management services. And so, we want to be able to tell what species actually on a beach because we use different baiting mechanisms for each one of these species. So looking at the cat and the dog, what can you guys tell me is the difference between the two? Huh? Yeah, so the claws, but do cats have claws? Yeah, they do, but they retract them when they walk, right? Also, how do cats walk? So okay, so do cats walk, in a straight line, or do they walk, alternate? Have you guys ever heard the term catwalk? How do models walk? In a straight line. That comes from the cat. So, in case you guys didn't know that. So cats walk in a straight line. Dogs and foxes, however, do not walk in a straight line. So the cat, their print is about the size of what coin? It's quite small.
20 cent?
Sorry?
20 cent?
Yeah, it's about 20 cent to 50 cent piece. However, the dogs that we have at Gnaraloo, they're about this big. Oh, sorry. Also, the amount of differences between dog and fox are the 2 middle toes. So with the foxes, we see a more elongated 2 middle toes as opposed to the dog, which they're a little bit closer in size. Also, something to note with the fox print is the foxes will have this patch of hair in between their middle toes and the heel pad. So, here's the fox, and it has that little hair piece, whereas the dog, the pad of the heel pad actually comes up a lot higher. You guys can see that? Yeah. So if it was a really, really great print of a fox trap, you could actually see the individual hairs. And the fox will be in size, it'll be somewhere between the cat and the dog. Okay, dangers of sea turtles. What may be the problem with boats?
Propellers.
Sorry?
Propellers.
Yeah, exactly, propellers. So propellers can come and crack the shell of a sea turtle. And if the shell of a sea turtle is cracked, what can the sea turtle not do properly? Sorry? Yeah, exactly. It can't dive down. So it uses its lung for buoyancy. So to be able to dive down and to come back up, it uses its lung. However, if there's now a crack in its shell and there's extra air inside the body of the sea turtle, the lung, can be working properly, but because of that extra air, it just won't be able to dive down. And if a sea turtle can't dive down, what did we discuss about its food source? It's at the bottom of the ocean, exactly. So it's starved. So it'll be like, it won't go anywhere. Also, sea turtles are like reptiles. They're cold-blooded. And what did we say about cold-blooded creatures? Sorry? Yeah, they need to heat up. But they need to heat up, but then they also have to dive back down to cool down. This sea turtle is just going to be stuck at the top surface of the ocean. It's just going to overheat, and it's going to end up dying. So of course, fishing lines, fishing nets, sea turtles can get caught in them. Their fins can be amputated, they can completely die. There's, of course, I'm sure you guys know all about fishing lines and fishing nets, problems with that. Now, four-wheel driving on beaches, what may be the problem with this?
Could they run over the nest?
Yes, if they run over the nest, the sand gets compacted, the eggshells get crushed, those sea turtles will not develop. Now, there's one more thing two more things that you guys can say about four-wheel driving on the beaches. Sorry? Oh, either of you guys.
It will compact the sand and make it hard for wheels to get out.
Yeah, that's sort of like the nest one. There's something a little different I'm looking for.
Will they run over baby turtles?
Yeah, that's one of the things. So they can run over baby turtles. I'm glad you didn't say adult turtles because they're about 1.5 meters in length. It's a little big, so it'd be hard to run over. You have to be blind to not see it. But there's one thing about, I guess, what do baby sea turtles use to find the ocean? Sorry? No, not quite. It has something to do with the water and light. I'm pretty much giving it to you guys. So they use the light that's reflected off of the ocean to direct themselves to the ocean. Now, a sea turtle might be walking towards the ocean. However, if they come into this wheel rut, what happens is, you see how the wheel rut, so it runs like this. It has this dark shadow right here, and the light source now looks like it's coming from one of these directions. So now the sea turtle is going to think, oh wait, the light is being reflected from this way or this way, and it'll actually end up walking or scurrying in the path of the wheel rut and not make it to the ocean. And so it'll be out on the beach for longer, so predators can get to it now, and it can overheat. So that's pretty much death. Therefore, we do not allow four-wheel driving whatsoever on our beaches. Okay, so housing, developments, what is the problem with that on turtle nesting beaches? Sorry? What'd you say? Yeah, I actually wasn't thinking about that. That's a good one. What else? Huh? Yeah, so people being on the beaches is a problem. At nighttime, they can be on the beaches. Also, they can leave beach equipment on the beach, and therefore there's more debris on the beach. A sea turtle does not want to come out and make its nest in a place where there's lots of stuff on the beach, because that's decreasing the chances of its hatchlings making it to the water. But what else do houses and people give off at nighttime? Light, exactly. So when a sea turtle is about to come out, she pokes her head out of the ocean and looks around, and usually she just wants to look for the moonlight. Now, if there's all this housing, people with torches, there's tons of light coming off at nighttime, and that's going to scare a sea turtle. Nobody wants light shining into their face. That's just not ideal. And so what she will actually end up doing is she'll just drop her eggs in the water channels, and so those eggs will never develop. So in a lot of places where there is development on popular nesting beaches, they've now created drop-down shades, so at nighttime, to block the light coming from these houses, shades drop down. So it's pretty cool to help the sea turtles out. So once again, we do not have housing on our beaches currently, or any type of a development. Okay, so plastic bag and jellyfish. What does this look like to you guys? Which one of the two? Plastic bag, raise your hand. If you think it's a plastic bag, raise your hand. Okay, two people? Okay, what about jellyfish? Okay, well you guys are smart. So it actually is a jellyfish. I thought it was a plastic bag. So plastic bags and jellyfish can look very similar in the ocean. They move the same, they kind of look the same. And as Casey mentioned, sea turtles love to munch on jellyfish. So if there's a plastic bag, they're going to end up eating it. It's going to get stuck in its internal organs. Can't really break it down. Can't break down the food that it eats afterwards. So it'll pretty much lead to death in most cases. So very important not to put our rubbish in the sea. Okay, last slide of dangers. So back to what you were saying originally. How do you guys think the gender of a nest is determined for a sea turtle? So when a sea turtle comes and lays its eggs, those eggs do not have a predetermined gender. So what might determine the gender of a nest?
Temperature.
Exactly. Way to read it off the board. You'll be surprised how many people don't know that. Okay, so if the temperature is above 29.5 degrees Celsius, it will become a female in most cases. If it is below 28.5 degrees Celsius, it will become a male. And that 1 degree Celsius in between the two, it's a pivotal temperature for, half male, half female sea turtles. Now, I'm sure you guys all know about global warming. Yes, everybody knows about that. So, because of global warming, what's happening to the sea turtles?
Lots more females.
What?
Lots more females.
Yep, lots more females. And what is the problem with more females and not enough males?
Fertility.
Sorry?
Fertility.
Yeah, so there's not as much mating, not as many nests that are going to be made. And so the number of sea turtles that are going to develop is going to be a lot less. Also, for us at Gnaraloo, cyclone season is at the same time as the nesting season. And so cyclones can come through and destroy some of the nests. Okay, so you guys are year 12, correct? Okay, so I don't know how many of you are thinking about going to uni, but the point of this slide is just to show that you can study many different types of sciences and still get involved in conservation. So people from our program have actually studied environmental science, marine science, neuroscience, geography, zoology, plant biology, and genetics, and have all ended up doing conservation, working for our program. Now, if you aren't sure about uni, or if you just want to get some experience with conservation, there's many different paths you can also go. And so volunteering is pretty much vital for any position you want to get in your life. You need to, have an internship. You have to get some type of experience in, because it's very hard to get jobs without having any type of experience. Of course, work experience, GIS, so mapping, it's pretty important for our program. Then graphic design, environmental law, pest management, so that's like our feral animal program, photography, diving, and snorkeling. So there's many different types of things that you can, try out, get involved in, and see if it's conservation that you want to do, or just to do something different than uni. You shouldn't restrict yourselves. You have many options. So yeah, thanks for caring about our sea turtles. Do you guys have any questions? Go ahead.
Can we still watch the video on the turtles?
Of course we can, yeah. Are any of you guys interested in marine science, conservation, biology in general? Yeah? Go ahead.
Oh, no.
Oh, you're interested. Okay, cool. Yeah, so can you guys see how this sea turtle's moving? Yeah? What would you say it is by its movement? Freestyle. And so what species is this sea turtle? Yeah, loggerhead. Now this sea turtle actually had a little indent right here, so that may have happened, when it was a hatchling, may have been attacked by a shark, or who knows what might have happened to it, but it does have some shell damage.
How long do turtles usually live for?
Bye, turtle! Oh, that was me. So they believe they live for over 100 years. It's hard to know for sure because, as we've said, only 1 in every 10,000 actually survives. So putting a tracker on one or having many generations, actually researching that sea turtle, it just requires a lot of work, so people aren't sure as of right now. So you guys see this nice little tail that the green turtle has? That's poking into the sand. And you see how much different the head size is as opposed to the loggerhead? Yeah, sometimes they just stop and rest for a bit.